A family of killers is breeding inside a man's lungs.
When I woke up and saw the blood on my pillow, it did scare me. I wasn't sure what to think.
A hideous organism makes its nest in a mountain biker's head.
I woke my wife up and I said, "You've got to see it. It's making noises and it's moving."
And a flesh-eating monster reproduces with furious speed.
And the name literally means man-eater.
All very different parasites, with one thing in common. They have perfected the art of reproduction. They are all sex maniacs. Parasites are just like every other organism on the planet. Their goal is to reproduce and make more parasites, and they are very good at it. So good, in fact, that there are more parasites on Earth than any other type of creature. As a strategy for survival, parasitism is incredibly successful.
If you're a parasite, that means you're living off of a host. And your host can provide food, it can provide shelter, and that means that parasites are freed up to put all their energy into what really matters, sex and reproduction.
Parasites have evolved countless ways to reproduce. They are the ultimate sex maniacs.
Some parasites have a very simple reproduction strategy. Make as many offspring as you possibly can and hope that just a few of them will survive. Other parasites are much more deliberate. They choose the timing and the place for reproduction very carefully, thereby maximizing the likelihood of their offspring surviving.
Many parasites cause their host little harm or discomfort, which ensures they continue to breed undetected. Other parasites make their presence savagely felt, as a man in Colorado is about to find out. Aaron Dallas is a ski instructor in Carbondale, Colorado.
We've lived in Carbondale about 4 years now.
He lives with his son Bodie and his wife Midge.
It's a great town. It's got the mountains and skiing, biking. We love that we can get on our bikes and don't have to get in our cars for weeks at a time.
And the big part of moving here was the community activities and stuff.
The Dallas family is constantly on the go, but in the spring of 2007, something stops Aaron in his tracks.
It was planting time, and as I was bending over to shovel, I felt this sharp pain in the back of my head. As I bent down, it got worse and worse, so I immediately stood back up and the pain went away. I thought, well, that's kind of strange.
The stabbing pain continues intermittently, but Aaron can't identify any obvious cause. A week later, he begins to feel the skin on the back of his head is changing.
I started to discover there were some distinct bumps on the back of my head.
Aaron can feel a ring of 5 individual bumps protruding from the back of his head. He decides to wait and see if the bumps go away on their own.
Aaron's a typical male. It takes a lot for him to go to the doctor.
But then, a frightening symptom forces him to seek medical help.
Probably in the second week, they started to bleed. These bumps were bleeding, oozing. It was fairly continuous. I was starting to get more and more concerned.
With the back of his head oozing blood and pus, Aaron heads to see his local doctor in Carbondale. The doctor examines the bumps and tells Aaron they are infected bug bites. If insect bites are scratched and the skin is broken, infection can easily occur, causing a condition called cellulitis, or inflammation of the soft tissues underneath the skin.
Yeah, that made perfect sense. And he gave me a topical lotion to put on there that would clear up any infection. Was pretty convinced that that was going to take care of it.
Back at home, Aaron notices a surprising reaction to the ointment.
Well, when I put this lotion on, the bumps reacted. They would get very irritated in a way that I had never felt irritation before. It was almost as though I was making the bumps angry.
The ointment does nothing to reduce the infection. In fact, after 3 weeks, the bumps have doubled in size.
As I'm getting ready to go biking, I get my shorts on and my jersey on and my shoes on. I grab my helmet, and as I put it on my head, I realize my helmet doesn't fit. The bumps by this point had become so large that the helmet that I had had for 3 years no longer fit over my head.
Aaron's swollen head forces him to confront the possibility that something is invading his body. He makes an appointment with a specialist in Denver. It's a 3-hour journey from Carbondale through several high mountain passes. On the trip, Aaron notices a curious new sensation.
So in the same way my ears are filling up and clearing, the bumps on my head are getting worse, and as I'm going down, they're feeling better.
Aaron describes the shooting pain, the bleeding, and the pressure changes. The specialist gives him a diagnosis which explains the strange ring of bumps and the sharp bursts of pain.
The doctor thought that it was probably a recurrence of shingles. I had shingles earlier in the year in February.
Shingles is caused by a virus that attacks nerve endings, causing shooting pain and pus-filled blisters.
So what he told me was that it should clear up on its own. I thought, well, that's different than what it was before, but because it's on my head, maybe it manifests itself differently.
When he came back from the specialist in Denver, I think we were really defeated, so we didn't know how long he would be in this pain.
And the pain is becoming hard to withstand.
The pain would come as though I had backed myself into a nail on the side of the wall.
Then for Aaron, the most terrifying moment of all.
As I'm lying in bed one night, I can hear noises in the back of my head. I can hear the bumps making noise. Just a very faint scratch, 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 scratch. I woke my wife up and I said, "You've got to see it. It's making noises and it's moving."
When he would say they were moving, I didn't disbelieve him, but I didn't completely believe him because it was hard for me to believe that he would feel like shingles were moving inside of him.
I'm telling myself, stop imagining it. It's just a figment of your imagination. Don't let it get to you. Just concentrate, let the pain go away, and go back to sleep. At this point, everything is going through my head. What could it possibly be? Is it cancer? Is it, what are all of the things that could cause bumps on the back of your head to get so debilitating?
Desperate to find an answer, Aaron heads back to his original physician.
So I decide that I'm gonna make him do something about these bumps, even if we have to cut them off.
This time, before his appointment, Aaron makes a small but important change to his routine.
I took a shower right before I went to the doctor and went with wet hair to see the doctor. This time he parts my hair, looks at the bump, and pauses. He goes, "Oh my God, what is it? What do you see? What is it?" And he says, "I don't know. All I can see are things moving inside the bumps on the back of your head. I think they're botflies."
The botfly is a hairy insect about twice the size of a housefly. Its maggot larvae are known to live as parasites in human flesh.
I am immensely relieved that I'm not going crazy, that there really are things moving and making noise on the back of my head.
Aaron's head has been a nursery to 5 growing botflies.
Botflies only have a few offspring over the course of their lives, but they're very careful about where they place them so that those offspring are more likely to survive.
Skin provides food and shelter for baby botflies, and the botfly larvae are brilliantly adapted to living in the flesh of another organism. Botflies have special mouthparts that allow them to burrow into their host's skin. At the maggot's rear end is a breathing tube that keeps the larvae supplied with oxygen while it's in the skin. The doctor can see the botfly maggots through their breathing tubes, which form holes on the top of each bump.
And because I had taken a shower right before I went to the doctor, I had washed off all the crusty stuff, all of the things that would block the holes. And because the holes are now clear, the doctor and the nurse can see things moving in the back of my head.
But how did the larvae get into Aaron's flesh? Botflies live in Central and South America, not Colorado. The doctor asks Aaron if he's traveled to the tropics recently.
We had been going to Belize for me to do a bike race. A day in early June, the bike team and I traveled to a race in northern Belize. They got the basic hotel room. I opened the window, I turned the fan on, and as I opened the window, I see that there's no screen on the window. In about 5 minutes of opening the window and turning the fan on, the room is full of mosquitoes. I pulled the sheet on my bed all the way up to the top of my head and tried to go to sleep, giving the mosquitoes as little room as possible to hassle me.
But what do mosquitoes have to do with the botfly maggots taking root in Aaron's head? Aaron Dallas is in a hotel room in Belize, surrounded by mosquitoes. He doesn't realize these insects are about to deposit a cargo of parasitic eggs onto his head. The mosquito plays a vital part in the life cycle of an insect called the botfly.
To complete its life cycle, a botfly has to find a way to get its eggs onto the skin of a host. But the adult botfly has a problem. It's too big and conspicuous to drop the eggs off for itself. So what it does is it uses a mosquito to deliver the eggs for it.
The female botfly ambushes a mosquito in mid-flight. The botfly lays its eggs and glues them to the underside of the mosquito. When the mosquito lands on human skin, body heat melts the glue. The eggs fall off the mosquito and hatch into larvae, which burrow into the skin. If they are undisturbed, they will remain there for 6 weeks. Eventually, the larvae crawl out through the breathing hole, fall off the skin, and burrow into the ground. 4 weeks later, they emerge as adult botflies.
Because botflies only make a few offspring, they need those offspring to get where they need to go, and that's why using a mosquito is such a brilliant strategy.
In Colorado, Aaron's doctor is about to interrupt the life cycle of the botfly maggots in Aaron's head.
At this point, I'm pretty relieved, because at this point, I finally have a doctor who is going to do something about the bumps on the back of my head.
But extracting botfly larvae can be a dangerous business.
Botfly larvae are ringed with little tiny black spines, and those are there so that if you try to pull it out, it's going to get lodged into place. It's a great way to make sure that it doesn't get pulled out by the host.
One way to extract a botfly is to cover the air hole, starving the maggot of oxygen. When the cover is removed, the maggot surfaces and can be extracted safely. When Aaron took a shower, he removed the scabs that were covering the air holes. The botflies come to the surface, and the doctor prepares to extract them.
And the next thing I know, I can feel something being pulled out of my head. And I can almost hear it go. I don't like to use the word maggots because it's not a very nice word and it doesn't make me feel very good that there were maggots in my head. But what he showed me were maggots.
For Aaron, the mystery is finally over.
There was kind of a giddiness and a happiness inside me because my entire body knew that it was over.
To avoid hosting a botfly, keep away from mosquitoes when in the tropics. Always use insect repellent and cover up at dusk.
To complete its life cycle, a botfly has to find a way to get its eggs onto the skin of a host.
The botfly's cunning reproductive strategy ensures more of its young survive.
For a botfly larva, skin is a perfect place to live. It's warm, it's moist, there's food, you're physically protected, and of course, because it's such a great place to live, they're not the only parasites that have figured that out.
One parasite uses flesh to produce hundreds of babies at a time, the screwworm. The screwworm fly lays its eggs in the open wounds of live animals. The hatching maggots are voracious eaters. Their curved teeth tear at their host's flesh, causing deadly infections. Across the Western Hemisphere, they massacre livestock and also attack humans. Dr. Steve Skoda of the U.S. Department of Agriculture is one of the world's leading experts on this killer pest.
The Latin name is Cochleomya omnivorax, and the name literally means man-eater.
Dr. Skoda and a team of researchers breed thousands of these parasites and study their reproductive cycle in the hope of stopping them.
These are the flesh eaters right here. This is the parasitic stage. These are the parasites.
But what makes this flesh eater so successful? The screwworm is a formidable enemy with a powerful weapon: sex.
Males are promiscuous. They'll mate as many times as the females come around with as many females as they can, as many times in one day as they can.
Female screwworm flies, on the other hand, take a different approach to mating.
Female screwworm flies have a great trick in terms of their sexual reproduction. They only have to mate once, and then they're able to store all the sperm from that mating event for the rest of their lives, and they never have to go looking for a mate again. And because the females aren't wasting all this time on mating, they're able to spend more time looking for open wounds where they can lay their eggs.
She begins laying up to 300 eggs in the nearest open wound. Less than 12 hours later, body heat induces the eggs to hatch. Immediately, the maggots begin to feed, enlarging the wound minute by minute. When the maggots reach maturity, they drop from the host and burrow into the ground, where the larvae become flies, ready to mate and perpetuate the cycle. The entire life cycle of a screwworm takes just 20 days.
If you have one breeding male and female and they go unrestricted in their ability, they could make thousands and thousands of flies in just a couple of weeks, really.
Screwworms have a simple and efficient life cycle, allowing them to reproduce with incredible speed. But other parasites must take several complex steps through many hosts before finally reproducing. Tulsa, Oklahoma. Outdoorsman Tony Brixey is the picture of health. When he's not home with wife Misty, he's hard at work as a chemical applicator for an electrical company.
My job involved actually mixing chemicals, putting those in sprayers. We were spraying broadleaf plants to keep those from growing into the power lines.
The hectic work schedule keeps Tony busy and away from his family.
My job required me to travel sometimes up to 6 days a week.
One winter's day, Tony notices that he's developed a persistent cough.
Progressively got worse, coughing deeper, harder, hard to catch my breath.
Tony begins to suspect that his cough might be job-related.
I just knew it had to be those chemicals.
Maybe the chemicals were getting into his lungs, and maybe that's why he was coughing.
But Tony isn't too alarmed and decides to deal with it on his own.
Tony has never been one to just go to a doctor. He feels if he ignores something, it will go away.
I just didn't really think it was that serious.
2 weeks after the cough develops, Tony returns home from a long week at work.
My chest just felt tight, and I couldn't get enough air. So I get up out of bed, walk to the bathroom, and just cough up a lot of blood.
What could be causing Tony Brixey to cough up so much blood? The best way to avoid the botfly parasite is to A, stay out of fresh water in Africa or Asia. B, wash your hands before handling food. C, avoid mosquitoes in tropical areas. The best way of avoiding the botfly parasite is to C, avoid mosquitoes in tropical areas. Oklahoma resident Tony Brixey has been sick for weeks with a persistent cough. But his condition takes a dramatic turn when he begins coughing up blood. Tony and his wife Misty start to panic.
When I saw all of the blood in the toilet, I was really scared that something was very wrong with him.
Misty rushes Tony to the family doctor. She tells him about Tony's exposure to chemicals at work. But the doctor dismisses the idea that chemicals are the culprit. Instead, he suspects bronchitis, an infection of the airways leading to the lungs. He puts Tony on a 2-week course of antibiotics.
I finished the antibiotics, and I had actually gotten worse. So we went back to the doctor. The doctor didn't really know what to think.
He refers Tony to a pulmonologist who takes a closer look at his lungs. And right away, he sees something shocking.
They actually did a scope down into my lungs and saw little black specks.
The pulmonologist can't tell what the little black specks are. But right away, Misty offers up one possibility.
I'm not sure when he started, but from early teenage years, he had been chewing tobacco.
The doctor agrees that the specks do look like remnants of chewing tobacco. If Tony had swallowed some chewing tobacco, particles could have gone down his bronchial tubes and settled in his lungs.
Somehow it had made it into my lungs, and that's what the little black specks was caused from.
Since he does not see any signs of infection, the doctor prescribes more antibiotics and tells Tony to stop chewing tobacco.
I did not like the fact that he chewed tobacco. I was always trying to get him to quit.
Tony returns home and follows the doctor's orders. But 3 weeks later, he wakes up to a horrific sight.
When I woke up and saw the blood on my pillow, it did scare me. I wasn't sure what to think.
Alarmed, Tony calls his wife, who rushes him to the hospital. There, he is put under the care of infectious disease specialist, Dr. David Sheck.
In addition to the coughing up of blood-tinged material, he was also having some chest pain, and there was just concern that maybe there was progression of whatever process was going on in his lung.
Dr. Sheck knows these black specks must be related to Tony's symptoms, but he has no idea what they are.
We had to, number one, further identify what these objects were, and then to figure out a course of action.
Sheck orders a biopsy of the black specks and sends them to a pathologist. Tony can only return home and wait. Finally, the results come in.
One of the nurses from Dr. Sheck's office called and set up an appointment for my wife and I to come to Tulsa to talk about the results of the biopsy. I was a little worried about why they wouldn't tell us over the phone what the problem was.
Misty fears the worst.
I thought he was getting cancer. I thought my husband may be dying.
2 days later, Tony and Misty make the 2-hour drive to Tulsa. Tony braces himself for the news.
What they found was an object, or objects, that actually looked like eggs.
The black specks in Tony's lungs aren't chewing tobacco. They are eggs. Dr. Sheck has never seen anything like it.
And it certainly was something that wasn't very common to see here in Oklahoma. It looked like a parasite. What wasn't known was what type of parasite it was, specifically because when you examine these eggs, sometimes they all look very similar.
But the pathology report holds a clue.
It seemed to have a central operculum, which is kind of a central spine. And then the way that its attachment features were oriented on the egg itself actually made us start to think what this type of parasite was.
When he realizes which parasite he's looking at, Dr. Sheck is astounded. It is a parasitic worm commonly found in Asia and South America called Paragonymous calicoti, or the lung fluke. It lives and breeds in the lungs, causing chronic inflammation. In serious cases, the lung fluke is deadly. Once inside the host, the parasite burrows through the body's tissues in search of its breeding grounds, the lungs.
Once the parasite makes its way into the lung, it has everything it needs to reproduce. It has oxygen, it has nutrients, it has a nice warm environment, and it even has a way of getting its eggs out into the environment in an easy way.
The fluke causes inflammation in the host's lungs, making the host cough up blood that is laden with parasitic eggs. The egg-laden blood is re-swallowed and passed out of the body in the feces.
So for these organisms, reproducing in the lung is a brilliant strategy.
But how did this parasite get inside Tony Brixey's lungs? The answer lies in the lung fluke's complex life cycle.
Lung flukes have several intermediate hosts, and at every stage they're getting closer to the definitive host where they're going to be able to sexually reproduce. And in this case, the definitive host is a human.
First, the lung fluke attacks a freshwater snail. Once inside the snail, it grows into a tadpole-like larvae. Then the larvae invade a second host, often a crustacean. If the crustacean is eaten raw, the larvae will enter their new human host. In about 30 days, the adult lung flukes start to mate in the human lung. Crustaceans, the parasite's intermediate host, provide a clue to the source of Tony's infection.
So that made us go back and talk to the patient about what his potential exposures may have been.
So how did Tony Brixey come in contact with this rare parasite? Infectious disease expert Dr. David Sheck has just learned what parasite is living in Oklahoma resident Tony Brixey's lungs. The parasite that is causing Tony to cough up blood is called a lung fluke. To pinpoint the source of infection, Dr. Sheck turns to foods Tony may have eaten recently.
He said it's usually contracted by eating raw fish, shellfish, things along those lines.
Right away, Tony thinks he knows where he picked up the lung fluke.
Approximately 7 months prior, some buddies and myself were camping, caught some crawfish. I picked some up out of the bowl and just ate them raw.
Why would you eat raw crawdads? Why? That's disgusting.
It was normal practice, so I never thought anything about it.
But to the doctors, the raw crawfish are the prime suspects.
He had some exposure to improperly cooked crayfish, which likely was the source of his exposure.
Tony's infection, though rare, is not impossible to get in his home state.
But we know from animal studies that Paragonymous parasite is endemic in North America. There are some of these parasites in Oklahoma.
Dr. Sheck now knows how long the parasites have been ravaging Tony's lungs. For Tony, the next steps are crucial.
Part of this parasite's life cycle involves getting from the gut to the lungs. If it takes a wrong turn and ends up in the spinal cord, you can get paralyzed. If it turns and goes into the heart, you can have sudden death.
The parasites have been mating uncontrollably in Tony's lungs for the last 7 months. If he isn't treated quickly, he could die. Dr. Sheck has no time to lose.
The treatment for this particular organism is praziquantel.
When ingested, praziquantel paralyzes the lung fluke and dislodges it from the walls of the lungs. Once dislodged, the lung fluke is then destroyed by the body's immune system.
So after I took the pill, it was approximately 2.5 to 3 weeks before I started seeing improvement.
In the subsequent office visit, he was already doing very well and had no further coughing up of the blood. He has gone on to do real well and is having no further lung symptoms.
And today, Tony is parasite-free and lucky to be alive. Tony is back to his old ways, all except for one.
To this day, I do not eat raw crawfish. I make sure that they are fully cooked.
Lung flukes go through 2 intermediate hosts before they finally get to the lung. And once they get to the lung, they can finally have sex. For lung flukes, sexual reproduction inside the lung tissue is a great strategy. But other parasites are just as successful when they reproduce outside the body.
For parasites living outside the body, stealth is key. November 2008. Waitress Donna Kaminsky is relaxing at home on the outskirts of New York City when she notices an unusual red spot on her arm.
It was actually like a cluster of 3 tiny marks. And it was just very, very intensely itchy. And the itchiness would not go away. It was constant.
As the week goes on, the itching gets worse and starts to spread.
It wasn't like a mosquito bite where you itch it and then if you stop, you're fine. It just was intense itching all the time.
Many things can cause itching, but in this case, Donna thinks she knows what it is.
After a while, I thought maybe it was a rash because I do have a milk allergy.
Donna eliminates all dairy from her diet, but it doesn't help. After a week, her skin still feels like it's crawling. and menacing red welts are spreading across her entire body.
Now I had them on my back. I had noticed that I had 2 on my ankle. I probably had about 12 different marks.
Donna rules out a milk allergy as the cause of her symptoms, but begins to wonder, could she have contracted a contagious disease at work? Frightened that she has some unknown disease, Donna schedules an appointment with her family doctor. What he says surprises her.
When he looked at them, he knew automatically that they were bug bites.
But from the way they look, any number of insects could have made these bites. The doctor gives her hydrocortisone cream to relieve the symptoms. But even with the cream, the itching only gets worse.
I just started ripping everything apart. But I just really didn't know what I was looking for.
But Donna sees no evidence of an infestation. If it is an insect, what kind of bug could be so elusive? She turns to the internet and finds a likely explanation for the constant itchiness. Scabies. Scabies is caused by a microscopic mite that burrows into the skin, laying 3 to 4 eggs per day.
When I heard scabies, I was just scared out of my mind.
But scabies infection involves skin-to-skin contact, and Donna hasn't been in touch with anyone who has it.
At this point, I had no clue what it could be. I knew that I had these marks. I knew that they were itching intensely. I found no evidence of bugs anywhere in my room. I just didn't know what to do. I was so overwhelmed with the whole situation.
So what's biting Donna? The answer is a parasite that's becoming more common by the day. Waitress Donna Kaminsky is not alone in her apartment. Something is biting her.
And I'm very afraid of bugs. And, I'm thinking about, what are they releasing into my body?
Donna goes back on the hunt, scouring the internet for similar cases. She stumbles upon a photo of a rash just like hers. It's clear Donna has bed bugs.
I was absolutely terrified that it was something that was biting me in my sleep. I mean, just the thought of laying in a bed that you're getting bitten by bugs and the bugs are sucking your blood is absolutely terrifying to even think about.
Donna is not alone. Nearly eradicated 60 years ago, bedbug numbers have increased 50-fold in just the last 5 years. So what is the secret behind this parasite's population explosion? Louis Sorkin is a researcher at the American Museum of Natural History in New York City. He believes the bedbug's resurgence is due to its ghastly but effective mating ritual. Most animals, even insects, go through the motions of wooing a mate, not bedbugs.
Bedbug mating is called traumatic insemination. The male bedbug is actually stabbing the female through her body wall and depositing sperm.
Bedbugs have a super weird way of having sex, and it's called traumatic insemination. Males actually jump on a female and stab them through their backs with their phallic organ. The more aggressive the male, the more successful it will be in reproducing.
The female soon heals, and 24 hours later, she begins to lay her eggs. She can lay up to 12 eggs a day, and up to 500 in her lifetime. The eggs have a sticky coating, which helps them adhere to tiny cracks and crevices. About 10 days after mating, the eggs hatch, and tiny millimeter-long nymphs emerge, ready for their first blood meal. To demonstrate how the bedbug actually finds its food, Louis conducts a grisly experiment on himself.
They're always hungry. Bedbugs are attracted to us by the carbon dioxide in our breath and also the heat from our bodies are 2 very important cues.
The adults can be seen with the naked eye, but the nymphs are practically invisible.
There's a nymph here, and it's starting to feed right now.
As the nymphs feed, they turn red with blood.
Pretty plump.
But the nymphs are born equipped with a highly specialized weapon, an elongated mouth called a stylet. It's shaped like a miniature hypodermic needle.
Their mouth part's a very unique tool, perfectly specialized for feeding on blood.
After finding a capillary, it pierces the skin quickly and efficiently, inflicting no pain. The bedbug's host never even wakes up.
They produce saliva, which acts as an anesthetic and also as an anticoagulant.
Using its hollow stylet like a straw, the insect drinks its host's blood, nearly doubling in size. After feeding, the engorged bedbug retreats to its hiding place. In about 7 days, it will emerge to feed again. Bedbugs molt 4 times before becoming adults that are ready to mate and start the process all over again.
For a bedbug, food and sex are intrinsically linked. There is no way for a bedbug to reproduce sexually unless it's just had a blood meal. Blood is the perfect food. Blood is the way that you deliver all the nutrients to your tissues, so blood has everything in it you need to survive. For a bedbug, it can get all the nutrients it's going to need in its entire life just by feeding on blood.
Donna Kaminsky knows she's hosting these bloodsuckers in her home, but she can't find them or get rid of them.
I tried to go to the grocery store. I bought some do-it-yourself spray. I was spraying everywhere, but it wasn't helping at all. I was still getting these bites everywhere.
Constantly battling this night feeder is taking its toll on Donna.
Knowing that I may have bedbugs, I couldn't even sleep because every little tickle or pinch that you felt in your sleep, I thought it was bedbugs.
What will it take to stop these blood-sucking monsters from taking over the country? That's exactly what Donna Kaminsky decides to get. She calls a local pest control company, and they immediately send their best search and destroy team. With a nose 1,000 times more sensitive than a human's, Roscoe is well equipped to find bedbugs. If they're hiding in Donna's home, Roscoe and his human partner, Peter Matisse, will find them. The Beagle may be Donna's best shot at getting her apartment and her life back.
Let's go to work. Let's go to work.
Roscoe gets to work right away.
Let's go. Seek. Seek.
He was very fast, and he just sniffed like the whole room.
Seek. Seek.
Finally, he gives the sign that he's located some bedbugs.
Show me. Show me. Good.
He actually indicated by my suitcase.
Good.
That's when I had an idea of where the bedbugs came from.
With the bedbugs found, Donna retraces her steps.
I had recently been on a trip with my sister to Nashville, and I was staying at a 4-star hotel. And I was just shocked that that was probably the root of where the bedbugs came from.
The bedbugs hitched a ride to New York in Donna's suitcase. As she unpacked, they crawled into crevices around her apartment. A week later, the bedbugs began to search for a blood meal in their new home.
It was probably about 10 days after I came home from the trip that I started noticing the bites on my arms.
The search and destroy team at Donna's house has a potent new weapon. Cryonite, a frozen carbon dioxide spray. At minus 78.5 degrees Fahrenheit, this spray freezes the insects, causing their cells to expand and rupture, killing them instantly. Today, Donna and her apartment are bedbug-free. And though she finally has peace of mind, she's learned to be vigilant.
After this whole experience, I really learned that, when I travel, I need to be looking at where I'm sleeping so I wouldn't have to go through this whole situation again.
In the war against bedbugs, Peter and Roscoe are formidable opponents. But bedbugs aren't just spreading in New York City. Given their success in the modern world, bedbugs can be hard to avoid. But you can help yourself by checking the bedding and furniture when you're staying in a hotel, and always inspect secondhand clothes before bringing them home.
One of the reasons that bed bugs are so successful is that they have so many offspring over the course of their lives. A single bed bug can lay hundreds of eggs in its lifetime, and even if just a few of those survive, it wins.
Parasites are successful because they are experts at making copies of themselves. Parasites are in the air, in the soil, in the food we eat, and in our beds. The more we understand about how these sex maniacs reproduce, the more ammunition we have to fight them. Every parasitic infection is just one battle. The parasites are winning the war.
Have you ever wondered if the private habits you've carried for decades could be silently harming you in ways you never imagined? For countless older men, a routine as familiar as masturbation, something comforting, even instinctive, can become a hidden risk after 60, not because of the act itself, but because of what most men don't know. I'm Dr. James, a men's health specialist with over 30 years of experience, and I've seen firsthand how a lack of understanding about sexual health can rob men of their vitality, confidence, and even identity as they age. This video isn't about shame, it's about empowerment through knowledge. Today, I'm revealing 5 critical masturbation secrets every man over 60 needs to know to protect his prostate, boost circulation, and stay sexually vibrant well into his 70s and beyond. You'll discover why your body's changes aren't a failure but an evolution, how your habits might be draining your energy or rewiring your brain, and why masturbation could be a lifeline for your physical and emotional health. These aren't just tips, they're life-changing truths most doctors won't discuss. Stay until the end, because the final secret could redefine how you age, preserving your independence and intimacy in ways you never thought possible. Don't miss out on reclaiming control of your health and confidence. Subscribe, hit the bell, and let's break the silence together, because your right to feel whole never expires. If you are not subscribed, subscribe and activate the notification bell so you don't miss any videos. Your support means a lot to me. And if you enjoyed this video, you can help me continue spreading the valuable lessons by liking and sharing it. If you like the topic of this video, please comment 1. If you don't, please comment 0 to let me know how I can improve and make better videos for you. Now, let's begin. Secret 1, your erection is no longer the whole story, and that's okay. There comes a pivotal moment in every older man's life when he realizes that his body just doesn't respond the way it used to. It's subtle at first, like a slow, creeping change that catches you off guard when you least expect it. The blood flow isn't as quick. The sensations aren't as sharp. What once felt effortless now feels like a puzzle, requiring thought, patience, and yes, sometimes even frustration. And let me tell you, for many men, that moment is a quiet trigger. It's as if an internal voice starts whispering, "Something's wrong. This isn't how it should be. Why can't I just feel the way I used to?" But here's the powerful secret that no one ever bothered to tell us. Your erection is no longer the whole story, and it's okay. It's more than okay. It's part of a larger journey that we never had the chance to learn about. I've watched countless men over the years, some in their 60s, 70s, and even 80s, come to me with that same look of confusion and quiet panic, convinced that their ability to get a full erection is the very measure of their masculinity. They sit there, sometimes with tears in their eyes, thinking they've lost something deep within themselves. They feel like they're broken, like their manhood has vanished. And that breaks my heart because it's simply not true. Our generation was raised on a flawed narrative that tied sexual success directly to performance. Hardness was equated with health. Duration was linked to power. And if you couldn't rise to the occasion, if you couldn't hit the mark every time, something was wrong, something was broken. But that was all a lie. A lie planted in our youth by movies, by magazines, by the unrealistic portrayal of masculinity that we were fed over and over again. We were never taught that as water bodies would change, and that didn't mean we were less of a man. No one pulled us aside and said, "Your body is evolving, and that's perfectly fine. You're not any less valuable or less capable." I've had men sit across from me, men who lived full lives and had families, careers, and passions, but still felt like their worth was tied to something as fleeting as an erection. They didn't realize that their bodies weren't failing them. They were simply transitioning into a new phase of life, one where the focus shifted from rigidity to connection, from performance to presence. Yes, they still crave intimacy. Yes, they still desire closeness. But what they're left with is confusion because, for most of them, no one ever explained that orgasm and erection are not on the same hats right. You can still experience deep, fulfilling pleasure without achieving the same type of erection you might have had in your youth. And here's the truth no one talks about. Orgasmic function operates on a completely different system. It's not about the performance. It's about the connection, the feeling, the depth of the experience. Unfortunately, this truth is one that far too many older men never learn. They go through life believing that their changing bodies mean they've lost something vital. Society doesn't help. We live in a world where we focus on quick fixes, pills, surgeries, and treatments. But we never talk about the bigger picture. We never talk about understanding the body's natural progression. Doctors rarely bring it up. Families, well, they might not even notice. And men themselves, too often, are too ashamed or too embarrassed to bring it up with their friends or their loved ones. The result? Generations of men battling guilt, confusion, and shame over something natural. Something that should be talked about openly. Let me tell you about Carl. He's 72, and not long ago, he came to see me. When he sat down, I could see the frustration in his eyes and the embarrassment he tried to hide. He told me, "Doc, it's like the lights are on, but nobody's home." There was so much more behind those words. We talked about it. We unpacked years of silent assumptions about what it means to be a man as you get older. I explained to him that pleasure doesn't just disappear with age. It transforms. It shifts. And with a little patience, with a little self-compassion, he could still experience sexual fulfillment, just in a different way. 2 months later, Carl came back to me with a smile I hadn't seen in years. He told me that for the first time in a long time, he was feeling something he hadn't felt in years: hope. And that's why this first secret is so crucial. When you release the pressure to perform, when you let go of the idea that your worth is measured by what your body can do in the bedroom, you open yourself up to a world of new possibilities. Touch becomes intentional. Time becomes your ally, not your enemy. Intimacy, whether with yourself or a partner, becomes meaningful again, not measured by hardness, but by presence, by connection. Older men need to hear this truth, not just from doctors, but from each other. We need to break the silence. You are not broken. You're adapting. And that shift, it's not a death sentence. It's an invitation to rediscover your body in a way that you never had time for before. But why don't more men know this? Why aren't we taught that our sexual identity is so much more than just our anatomy? The sad truth is that we live in a culture that glorifies youth and refuses to acknowledge the reality of aging, especially when it comes to men. We're told to chase youth, to fight aging with everything we've got, but never to embrace it, never to celebrate the changes that come with it. And yet, this silence, it costs us more than we realize. It isolates us. It makes us feel like we're the only ones struggling when in reality, so many other men are feeling the same way. It's time to change that. It's time to break the silence. For ourselves, and for the generations that follow. If you've been feeling like something's off, like your body isn't responding the way it used to, I want you to know this. It's not just you. And it's not too late. Your journey doesn't end with age. It begins again with understanding. The erection might no longer be the centerpiece of your story, but what you can experience when you let go of that expectation can be far more fulfilling than you ever imagined. And speaking of powerful transformations, what if I told you that masturbation after 60 isn't just about sex? It's about your emotions, your stress, and your mental health. In the next section, I'm going to reveal a truth that most men never hear. The secret emotional reason why so many seniors still turn to self-pleasure, and why ignoring it could be draining your energy, bit by bit. Trust me, this one will surprise you. Stick with me. Secret 2. Masturbation isn't just sexual, it's emotional and neurological. For most men, masturbation is thought to be just a quick release of physical pleasure, a solitary and instinctual act that doesn't seem to carry any deeper meaning. But after over 3 decades of working with older men, I've come to understand something far more complex, and honestly, far more crucial to our well-being. Masturbation, especially for men in their 60s, 70s, and beyond, is not just sexual. It's emotional, neurological, and psychological. It plays a far bigger role than most of us ever realized, and the painful truth is that no one ever told us this. We were never taught to understand that we could still crave pleasure, let alone still need it to feel whole as we age. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 1 below to let me know that you are still here with me. I recall one of my patients, Henry, a retired veteran in his late 70s. He came to me not because he had physical problems, but because he felt emotionally flat and disconnected, as if he was just going through the motions of life. It was in our conversations that it became clear that masturbation had become something he used, not for pleasure, but for peace. It was his way of calming his nerves after long, stressful days. It helped him sleep. It was, in his words, his reset button. Yet, for years, he had never made the connection. He thought he was just clinging to a habit from his younger years. He never realized that this small, private act was serving a much greater purpose: emotional regulation. And Henry isn't alone. Research shows that many men over 60 use masturbation as a way to manage stress, loneliness, grief, and even fear. It's not just about lust, it's about grounding. It's about reclaiming a sense of control when the world around us feels uncertain. But here's the catch. Most of us were never taught to reflect on our emotional lives, let alone how our emotions connect to our sexual habits. We're men. We were raised to man up, to stay tough, to bottle everything in. So when we find ourselves touching ourselves not out of desire but out of sadness or restlessness, we don't fully understand what's happening. And without that understanding, we risk turning something potentially healing into something hollow or even harmful. That's why this secret matters so much. Masturbation in older age often becomes a coping mechanism. When used with awareness, it can be incredibly healthy, almost therapeutic. But when done unconsciously, it can drain you. Not because the act itself is inherently bad, but because you're no longer fully present during it. You're numbing your emotions instead of connecting to them. And that, little by little, can rob you of the joy and vitality you still deserve. We need to talk about brain chemistry. After orgasm, your brain releases a cocktail of powerful neurochemicals, oxytocin, dopamine, serotonin, that affect mood, sleep, motivation, and even memory. For many seniors, this release can be a godsend, especially when battling depression or insomnia. But here's the crucial part. It only works if you're truly aware of what you're doing and why. Too often, older men are stuck on autopilot. They go through the same routine, with the same thoughts, at the same time, and eventually, the brain loses its spark. It stops responding with the same energy because it's not being stimulated in new, meaningful ways. That's why shifting your mindset is so important. Don't think of masturbation as just a habit. Think of it as an act of awareness. Ask yourself, am I doing this to connect with myself, or am I using it to avoid something I don't want to feel? Am I choosing this moment consciously, or am I just filling a void? The truth is, no one ever taught us this level of introspection, because men's emotional lives have long been ignored, especially as we age. People assume that we stop feeling, that we become these emotionless rocks, unmoved and uninterested in anything. But that's never been true. We feel more now than we ever did in our younger years. We've just become much better at hiding it. And sometimes, the only place we let those emotions out is when we're completely alone. So let this be a wake-up call. It's time to bring awareness into the light, to honor the emotional and neurological side of our sexuality, to stop pretending that touch is just touch. It's not. It's memory. It's emotion. It's survival. And when used wisely, it can be deeply healing. And here's something most men never realize, especially those who've been sexually inactive for a long time. While masturbation can soothe the soul, it can also protect the body. In the next section, I'll share a secret that could save your sexual health for years to come. It's the quiet truth about the use it or lose it principle, and what happens to the male body when you stop being sexually active after 60. You won't want to miss what's coming next. Secret 3, the use it or lose it rule is real but misunderstood. There's a hard truth that many older men don't hear until it's too late. When it comes to sexual function, if you stop using it, you really can lose it. But what's rarely discussed is how this gradual decline isn't just about performance in the bedroom. It's about something much deeper. It's about your sense of self, your masculinity, and your connection to the world around you. This isn't fear-mongering. This is about understanding the silent, slow changes that happen within your body over time. Changes that leave so many good men wondering, why isn't anything working anymore? The answer, unfortunately, has been hiding in plain sight for years. As we age, our bodies undergo a series of subtle but powerful changes. Blood vessels begin to narrow, nerve endings lose some of their sharpness, and the tissues that once gave us vitality and flexibility start to lose their elasticity. These aren't isolated events. They're biological responses to one single thing: inactivity. Think of it like a muscle that atrophies when it isn't used. Your sexual system operates the same way. If it's not engaged regularly, it starts to shut down. It's not a mystery. It's a predictable outcome of neglect. And here's the part that breaks my heart: the overwhelming reality that most men don't realize this is happening until it's already too late. I've seen it countless times in my practice. A man in his late 60s or 70s who has spent years alone, maybe he's widowed, divorced, or just given up on intimacy for a while, finally meets someone new. He feels hope, excitement, and desire again, only to find that his body just doesn't respond. It's not just a little slower. It's fundamentally different. Numb, unresponsive, sometimes even painful. And in that moment, he begins to think something's wrong with him, when in reality, it's just the inevitable result of long-term disuse. It's as predictable as the aging process itself. Why are men not warned about this earlier? Why is this simple truth left out of nearly every conversation about aging? Because sexual health after 60 is still treated as something optional, something that doesn't matter once your hair turns gray. And that's a cruel myth. It steals away something so vital from so many men. With just a little attention, their sexual vitality could have remained intact, vibrant, and alive for years longer. Let me tell you about Ray. He came to see me when he was 74. It had been over a decade since he had been intimate with anyone. Not because he didn't want to be, but because life had worn him down. His wife had passed, and he'd gotten used to being alone. Slowly, over time, he stopped touching himself altogether. Then one day, he met someone new, and the joy and excitement returned, but he was confused when his body didn't respond. He tried pills, creams, gadgets. Nothing worked the way he hoped. I had to gently explain to him that what he was going through wasn't dysfunction. It was disuse. Over time, the internal architecture of his penis had atrophied, blood vessels had narrowed, and nerve signals had dulled. It was all a perfectly natural response to disuse. But here's the hopeful part. With time, gentle stimulation, and consistent activity, even if it was just with himself, Ray started noticing a shift. It wasn't a miracle, and it didn't happen overnight, but it was real. His body slowly remembered. His confidence returned, and with it, a sense of being alive that he thought he'd lost forever. This is why masturbation, especially in later years, isn't just about pleasure. It's about maintenance. It's about keeping the blood flowing to delicate tissues, signaling to your body that this still matters. And believe me, your body listens. You're not just keeping a function alive. You're maintaining your connection to your vitality in ways that are deeply personal, emotionally grounding, and vital for your sense of self. So many men think that if they're not in a relationship, their sexual health isn't worth maintaining. But that's the greatest misunderstanding of all. You don't need a partner to stay sexually vibrant. You just need presence, curiosity, and consistency. The beautiful truth is that if you maintain this relationship with yourself, daily or weekly attention might one day allow you to enter intimacy with another person fully present and capable, because you never let that part of you fade into oblivion. Don't wait for a future partner to rediscover your body. Keep that relationship with yourself strong, because the moment you let go of it, your body starts to forget. And the longer it forgets, the harder it becomes to remember. But there's one more danger I've seen all too often, something that many men don't recognize until it's too late and has quietly rewired their brains, weakening their drive, energy, and desire for real intimacy. In the next section, I'll dive into something that almost every man has turned to, especially when they feel alone, but it could be costing you more than you realize. Stay with me. Secret 4. Porn may be destroying your sexual reflexes without you knowing it. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 2 below to let me know that you are still here with me. Let me ask you, have you ever found yourself reaching for your phone or tablet late at night, when the world outside is silent, when the house is empty, and you're alone with your thoughts? It's almost automatic, isn't it? You've done it 1,000 times before, and it feels comforting, like a familiar friend you can count on to fill the void. You might watch a quick scene, get that rush of pleasure, and for a moment, everything feels okay. But have you ever wondered what this is doing to you over time? The sad truth is that, for many older men, this behavior becomes a habit that, without realizing it, can start eroding the natural sexual reflexes you've relied on for years. It creeps in so subtly that you barely notice it happening. You might think everything is normal until one day, you feel it, the fading spark, the lack of arousal, the dullness. What once ignited passion now barely stirs a reaction. It's not about your age, your stress, or even your hormones. It's about a habit that's gone unchecked for too long. Porn, especially in later years, may be silently undermining your sexual health in ways you never expected. I'm not here to shame you. This is about understanding the science behind what's happening in your brain. I've seen it time and time again. Men in their 60s, 70s, and even 80s struggling to figure out why they can no longer feel the same way they used to. Why intimacy with real partners feels distant, flat, and uninspiring. They think it's just age or stress. But often, it's years of overstimulation, and the consequences are far more profound than they realize. Here's the truth. Your brain operates on a reward system, a mechanism that drives your desires, cravings, and what makes you feel good. When you watch high-intensity porn, especially in isolation, your brain gets flooded with dopamine, the pleasure chemical. It's like a rush of pure joy at first. But here's where it gets dangerous. Your brain, like any system, adapts. It becomes accustomed to that stimulation, and soon, what once excited you barely registers. The threshold for pleasure rises, and it becomes harder to feel aroused by anything other than more extreme imagery. Now, let's face it, this is where the real damage begins, especially for older men. As we age, our brain's plasticity, the ability to bounce back and form new, healthy neural patterns, slows down. The wiring that once allowed us to enjoy the natural, simple pleasures of intimacy starts to harden. So, when you've spent years relying on artificial stimulation, your brain stops responding to the real cues. A lover's touch, the intimacy of shared experiences, the quiet moments of affection. These things, once so powerful, now feel like they're fading away. This, my friends, is arousal fatigue. And it's incredibly common among aging men. The worst part? Most of them have no idea what's going on. They think it's just part of getting older. They blame it on the natural aging process or the stress of life, never realizing that their brain has been rewired to respond only to artificial, extreme visuals. It's like their bodies have forgotten how to react to the natural rhythms of intimacy. I'll never forget a patient of mine, Edward. He was 68, widowed, and retired, and his nightly ritual was watching porn just to feel a semblance of connection. At first, it was a relief. But after a year, he came to me, completely detached. He could no longer feel anything with another person, not even emotionally. It was like he had built a wall around his heart and mind. He felt numb, frustrated, and lost. It wasn't just a matter of arousal, it was a loss of connection, a deep sense of isolation. We worked together, slowly and gently, to help him detox from this dependency. It wasn't easy. But over time, he started reconnecting with his body, his senses, and his memories. Not through videos or artificial stimuli, but through the simple, powerful act of being present. Through touch, breath, and the quiet embrace of memory, his body began to awaken again. He stopped feeling like a man trapped in the past and started living fully in the present. And here's the hardest part of all. Most men don't even realize this is happening. No one talks about it. No one warns them about the toll porn takes on an aging brain. Instead, they quietly lose touch with their natural pleasure, and they think it's just part of the process of getting older. But it doesn't have to be that way. You can reset your brain. You can rewire your response system. The first step is simple. Step away from the screen, even if just for a while. Let your brain rediscover what it feels like to be present in your own body. Breathe. Slow down. Touch with intention, not performance. You might be shocked at what you find beneath the surface. The powerful sensations still waiting to be felt, still eager to come alive. When you break that cycle, something beautiful happens. Your imagination, once dulled by years of overstimulation, returns. Your sensitivity deepens. Your desire for real, meaningful connection, whether with yourself or another, begins to grow. This isn't about quitting sexuality. It's about reclaiming it, about taking back what's rightfully yours from something that's quietly stolen it over the years. But there's one final truth I need to share with you. One truth that ties it all together. Masturbation, when practiced with awareness and mindfulness, is not something to be ashamed of. In fact, it can be an incredibly powerful tool for supporting your health, your mood, and even your longevity. In the next secret, I'll explain why this act, which has been so misunderstood for so long, might just be the key to aging well. Secret 5, most doctors won't talk about it, but masturbation can be a lifeline. In my years of working with men over 60, there is one heartbreaking thing I've encountered repeatedly. It's the soft, almost shameful whisper, "I didn't know it was okay to do that at my age." I hear this from men, their eyes cast down, their voices low with embarrassment, as if they've confessed to something deeply wrong, something almost sinful or inappropriate. But let me tell you something. Nothing could be further from the truth. Masturbation, especially in older men, is not only okay, it's often one of the healthiest things you can do for yourself. It's not just about sexual satisfaction, though it certainly plays a part. It's about preserving your emotional well-being, your physical health, and even your dignity. Unfortunately, this crucial truth is never discussed in most doctors' offices. Why? Because the medical profession is often trained to focus on problems, not solutions that nurture the whole person. We are taught to prescribe medications, perform surgeries, and talk about symptoms. But we aren't taught to discuss the importance of pleasure, self-connection, and the quiet, intimate habits that help keep us grounded. Too many men go through life, particularly as they age, silently wondering whether their desires or their private habits are something to be ashamed of. It's this silence, not masturbation itself, that becomes the real problem. This silence is what steals away confidence, self-worth, and intimacy. But let's break that silence, once and for all. Masturbation, when done with awareness and care, is not just healthy, it's healing. It promotes circulation in the pelvic area, which helps maintain tissue health. It supports prostate function by allowing your body to clear out old fluids. It improves sleep by releasing calming neurochemicals like oxytocin and serotonin, which are instrumental in reducing anxiety. It even combats loneliness, something many seniors struggle with in quiet isolation. But it's more than just the biological benefits. It's about reclaiming your identity. When an older man disconnects from his sexuality, especially as he ages, he often loses touch with a deeper part of himself. He may start feeling invisible, not just to others, but to himself. He forgets that he's still someone who deserves pleasure, who still has desire, who still matters. And in the process, his emotional world begins to shrink. He becomes older, but not just physically. He becomes smaller emotionally. I've seen this happen far too many times. One man I worked with, William, hadn't touched himself in nearly 6 years. After his wife passed away, he told himself that part of his life was over, that it wasn't appropriate or even healthy to seek pleasure on his own. But over time, his mood darkened. He stopped sleeping well. He became irritable. It wasn't until we had an honest conversation that he began to realize the crucial role sexual touch plays in his emotional well-being. I'll never forget the moment he said to me, "I didn't know I was allowed to still be a man." That moment has stayed with me. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 3 below to let me know that you are still here with me. The truth is that too many older men internalize the belief that sex, especially solo sex, is something for the young. They think that after a certain age, it's childish or even dirty. But that belief is deeply harmful. The need for touch, intimacy, and connection doesn't vanish with age, it simply transforms. And if we embrace those changes, if we approach them with curiosity and care, we don't lose ourselves. We return to ourselves in a deeper, more meaningful way than we ever thought possible. So why don't more doctors talk about this? Because many of them are uncomfortable. They weren't trained to discuss aging and sexuality with dignity. They worry that talking about it will open a door they don't know how to walk through. And they assume, wrongly, that you don't want to talk about it either. But I assure you, you're not alone. Thousands of older men are asking the same questions, feeling the same uncertainties, carrying the same fears. And I'm here to tell you, it's not too late. You still deserve to feel pleasure. You still deserve to want. You still deserve to touch your body with kindness and care. Masturbation is not a failure of connection. It can be a form of connection, a bridge between your physical body and your emotional needs. It's a way of telling yourself, I still matter. If you've been carrying doubts, wondering if your habits are strange, dangerous, or shameful, let them go. What you do in your private space, with presence and respect for yourself, is not only healthy, it's healing. And in a world that often forgets older men, it may be one of the most important forms of self-respect you have left. The real problem isn't masturbation, it's silence. And once that silence is broken, you begin to reclaim parts of yourself that were never lost. They were just waiting to be remembered. You've made it through all 5 secrets. But there's one last thing I want to leave you with. Something that ties everything together into one simple, powerful truth. Stay with me because this could change how you view aging and yourself forever. As we wrap up, I want to take a moment to reflect on everything we've discussed today. From the powerful secrets about maintaining your sexual health as you age to the deep emotional benefits of simply being present with yourself, I hope you've learned something that will positively impact your life. What stood out to you the most? Was there a moment in this video that made you realize something new? Something that you will carry forward and put into practice in your own life? I would love to hear from you. Drop a comment below and share just one thing you've learned and plan to incorporate into your daily routine. And if you found value in this video, if it made you think and feel more empowered, please leave your comment below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel so you never miss an important update. We're here to continue sharing knowledge and supporting each other, and your participation means the world to us. Thank you for being here, and we'll see you in the next video.